All right, so we're talking all about pricing strategies today. And let me kick this off with this question. Why is it as an agent, it is crucial, mandatory, super, super highly important to master the art of how to price a house properly and how to talk about it, how to price it, how to talk about it. Why is that so important to really understand that and practice and practice and practice that? What do you guys think?
You want to win their confidence in you.
Love that. So be the professional. You want to win their confidence, right? I mean, if you go out, I love that, Janessa. So if you go out to appointment, I'm like, hey, Larry, so I'm excited to be your agent. I'm thinking maybe possibly could be the price, you know, could maybe be somewhere around. Do you have any confidence in me? Okay, you're probably gonna not hire me, right? And choose
Can't
that
wait.
other agent. Yeah. So yes, I
Can't-
love that confidence, right? Go in with confidence. If you don't practice, you're gonna sound like that. Okay, what else?
And
Why is it important?
I think if it's not priced properly to begin with, it may sit on the market longer than you would want it to. It wouldn't sell fast, and then you have to go back and ask them to reduce the price or change the price. Like you just want to be spot on in the beginning so it can sell.
Yeah, so you want to be as close to spot on the beginning as you possibly can, knowing that the market's going to change and there's no such thing as a perfect whatever. And knowing that sometimes you do need to, sometimes to get the listing, you might have to start here to go here. And we'll talk about those expectation conversations. But, you know, being able to speak to the market from that first appointment, though, to get it as close as possible to what the market is saying. Right. So let me follow up with this question. Who prices a house?
The owners.
The market.
Okay, I heard the market. I heard the owners.
The
Any
agent
other
should.
takers? I hear the agent. All right. So the market prices the house. The agent reads the market. The agent interprets the market. We don't price a house. We just read the market and what the market says, right? If a house, like I have a friend of mine who's an agent right now, has a listing, and this house has been sitting and sitting and sitting. And they're like, oh, maybe I need better flyers, or maybe I need to put it more on social media. And me, I'm sitting there going, no, it's not priced right. It's too high. Lower the price.
It's the buyer.
Right. So as an agent, we interpret the market, we read a CMA to determine a pricing strategy for the house, but we can't actually go in and say, here's your house price. We have to read it based on the market, right? Now, whoever said sellers, we give them the impression, right? The sellers think they want to price the house, but then we have to educate them on what the market's saying, on why it should be priced a certain way. So we're educating them on no, you're wrong. And this is why. We're not saying it that way. I'm saying it to you that way in this training, but obviously we'll go over verbiage on that. Okay, so let's actually dive in here and go through all of this, right? So we're going to be walking through how to understand, determine a home's market value with confidence. Jeanette, your word there. Creating. So I'm literally going to share my Bright MLS screen and we're going to walk through pricing. I'm going to be using Bright MLS to do a CMA today. There are other platforms that agents use. I will not be showing any of them today. Just know that when we get to that point, I will give you a few and I'll tell you some differences. And I'll also share with you why personally I froze. Hold on. I always go to Bright MLS. We're going to talk about setting realistic pricing expectations with your seller. What does it sound like? What does it look like? What are your words you use? Why is it so important? And then talk about how to use data for pricing objections, not emotion, but actual facts and data. Okay, so that's what we're going to run through in today's class. For those who haven't met me yet, or I haven't met you yet, there's always a few names and faces on here, some familiar ones. Welcome back. My name's Alana Huber-Katz. I'm Director of Education and Coaching for Keller Williams Capital Properties and Keller Williams Legacy, now all Catalyst Partners. We are a big network of 9 locations, close to 1,000 agents, which is exciting. And what I love is we're literally on here from Maryland, DC, and Virginia to walk through all of this. And I see somebody is looking to get, hold on here. My Zoom is literally clicking, but it's not letting me click on things. So I'm hoping Zoom is not having a, I'm going to call it a Zoom Tuesday. Just going to call it that. Just going to name it Zoom Tuesday. So, if for any reason something occurs and this pops off because Zoom is having, I'm going to call it a Zoom Tuesday, little glitch, don't go anywhere. Stay on. It will come back up. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and kick things off. Just so everybody's aware, I am a licensed agent. I have been an agent since 2015. I started brand new, as some brand new names on here as a new agent. I started brand new. I never bought a house, never sold a house. I was a renter. I didn't know anything about pricing homes whatsoever. And when I went on my very first listing appointment, which was my 2nd month into being an agent, I was scared out of my mind. I had no confidence whatsoever. I totally faked it till you make it, right? But there was one thing that I did do that the assignment from today's class is what all of you are going to do, and that is practice. Okay? If you go through this training, at the very end of it, you're going to have an assignment. It's actually kind of a fun assignment. I'm not going to lie. It's actually probably, most people tell me it's one of their favorites. And you decide not to do, right? You're an agent. You can decide this. You decide not to do this assignment, and you wait until you have a live person who's ready to list their house, and it's your first listing appointment, and you have to do your very first CMA, and you've never done one before. Okay. If you've never done a CMA before, your very first one's probably going to take you a few hours. I can now probably whip out a CMA in about 5 minutes. If it's a difficult property, maybe 10 minutes. Okay. The point of practice is to get to the point where you can do a CMA in 15 minutes or less. That's the goal. 15 minutes or less. So the activity you're going to do, and I'm going to demonstrate it for you, is getting hands-on. Meaning getting hands-on with Bright MLS. All right. So pricing is a skill. It's not a guess. We're not going in saying, well, you know what? Rod, I like your house. I'm going to just say 400,000 just because I like the price. Right? It is not a guess. And a CMA, a comparative market analysis, it gives you a range. It's not an exact science. It gives you a range. So what I mean by that is it's giving you a low, middle, and high. Okay, so let me ask you this question. So you're on the phone with a seller. You're on the phone with someone who wants to list their property, wants to sell their house and move to Florida to get out of the snow. And you find out from them that they have 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. They did a few upgrades. They're saying their house is pristine and beautiful. Now, you haven't seen it yet. You're on the phone gathering information, which, by the way, if you do not walk through getting information from them, you cannot do the CMA. You have to walk through what's called the seller questionnaire, which actually, you know what? I will share that with everybody. Somebody remind me towards the end of this to share with you the seller questionnaire. You need to walk through the seller questionnaire, which takes all of like 2-3 minutes, to get information from somebody, from a homeowner, to be able to do a CMA. But the CMA itself gives you a low, middle, and high. You're not pricing it on the phone. You're not saying, I see your house is this price. You have to see the property to determine what the price should be. Why is that? So CMA gives you low, middle, and high. You need to see the property, walk through it to determine what the price should be. Why do you guys think that is?
To see in person the actual condition of the home, because they may be telling you it's in whatever condition, but you don't know if you haven't actually gone to see it for yourself.
100% correct. Yes. Everybody thinks they have the greatest home ever, the most beautiful house. For those who've been on trainings with me, I'm going to say something. You're going to be like, I've heard this before, but I'm going to say it again for new people. And that is one of my first listings I ever, one of my first listing appointments I ever went on. I actually decided not to take it. We'll get down to that story in a few slides from now. It was mine if I wanted it. I chose not to take it. By the way, as an agent, you have that choice. You have that choice. And going out to the listing, I truly thought, great, I have a low, medium, high. It's going to be towards the medium to high range for price, right? And the range was something where we're like between 210 and 235. So I was like, okay, it's probably going to be somewhere around 230-ish, 229.9. I like to price things like that because there's psychology behind that. So I went out there. That thing wasn't even 210. That was lower than low, right? They thought their house was worth more money because they were leaving the hand-woven doilies for their curtains. True story. It's an older couple. They felt like that was worth more money because they were leaving that for the next homeowner. These are things you're going to have to come across, or you will come across. People will think that their home is worth more money because they did a full-on mural in the living room of trees and mountains. I don't want trees and mountains in my living room as a buyer, right? So, but they think it's worth more money because of that. They might think it's worth more money because they put 50,000 into a kitchen, so they get 50,000 back. Well, that's not how it works. So we're going to talk about pricing in a little bit. Just know that it is not guessing, okay? The hardest part of pricing a listing is determining the details of the house, right? When I get into demonstrating, I'll walk through what I mean by that. Okay. We need to explain why proper pricing is important because faster sales means happier clients, right? If their home is sitting, right, somebody lists their home because they want to move somewhere. I want to sell my house to move to Florida before the snow hits. Well, if they don't price it right, or they and you, right? If the house is not priced properly and it sits and now it's January and there's a huge snowstorm, who are they mad at? Everybody just do one of these, point yourself, right? They're mad at us. They're blaming us, right? Which may be right, may be wrong, depending on our expectations conversation. We'll get into that, right? So we don't want a home sitting on the market for. Is it going to happen? Are you going to have listings that sit? Yes. Are you going to have to lower pricing at times? Yes. That's just part of real estate, right? But properly we can price it, the faster it sells, the happier they are, because the sooner they can get to where they're going. Again, you're not telling the seller what they want. You're showing them what the market says. You can't go into a listing appointment. By the way, never talk about price on the phone. Might as well just hand the listing over to another agent. You don't go into a listing appointment walking in the door saying, all right, Jeanette, you know what? It's so nice to meet you. I'm excited to be your agent. Your house is $350,000. Right? That's a conversation to have, and we'll talk about that down the road as well. Right? Oh, Tierney. Hi. By the way, if you don't know her, Tierney is one of the amazing coaches out of DC. Hello, welcome.
Hey, so I just wanted to add, this the same way you say don't give prices over the phone, I also don't give commission rates over the phone because people will sometimes try to just get you to give, well, what are you charging? I don't do it. I just let them know that, hey, I have a couple of different options. I'd love to, let me come and take a look at the property and, share with you the option that I think may be more appropriate, but let you make the decision. But I do not give rates over the phone.
love, love, love that you said that. Yes, here's what you don't do over the phone. You don't do CMAs, by the way, don't email them either. Don't email or give over phone the price in the home because you haven't seen the house yet, so you can't. Also, do not talk. Actually, one of our agents just had this experience literally last week. She sent me a text. It was, oh my God, I think it was like Thursday night or something. She sent me a text and it was, hey, someone's asking me what I charge. How do I respond? So people are going to ask you. You're going to get that question. And there's multiple ways to respond. I'm going to give you an example of it, but then you want to practice this. And by the way, when I say practice this, like find a friend or a family member. They don't have to be in real estate. You can literally, the greatest way to practice this is tonight, go to one of your friends or family members. Hey, I want to practice, I'm in real estate. I just want to practice what I say in my appointments and just better myself. I just want to continually better myself. Do you mind pretending to sell your house? Trust me, it's actually a lot of fun with them. And if they're friends and family, they'll probably say yes. So when someone says, what do you charge, or what's your commission, or what's your rate, you want to welcome it in. Somebody say something like, Tierney, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. When we meet, now I usually say tomorrow, right? Or tonight. When we meet tomorrow night, and I walk through your property and we talk about the market and everything, I'm actually going to walk through what the different commission rates are, depending on what you're looking for. So what we're saying there is when we meet, so now you're setting the tone when we meet, right? We're going to walk through that. Once you say that, it's rare that you'll get any pushback as long as you practice it and you're quick with it and you have confidence and you move the conversation forward. All right, so understanding the market value through there's three lenses of value, right? There's what a buyer is willing to pay today. Now, the word today, the market changes a lot, frequently, okay? It is literally ups and downs. The market is constantly changing. So the market value, when we say pricing a home based on the market value, it literally is based on what a buyer is willing to pay today. If a home is sitting on the market and it's way over average days on market, it is because the buyers are not willing to pay typically that amount in today's market. Tierney.
Hey, sorry to keep
Oh,
raising
no,
my
you're
hand,
good.
but
I love it.
one thing that I found is that, people pay taxes based on the assessed value. And what I have found is that, every year the tax assessed value goes up, right? And if they haven't appealed it because of shifts or change in the market, that tax assessed value, I just had this with a recent listing where the tax assessed value was actually higher than what I, thought the market value was. So I went in and I basically had to let them know, yeah, this is your tax assessed value and it may be different because your tax assessor never walks into your home. They don't know the condition of your property. They just know, generally speaking, the market has increased X percent this year, and they're just going to blanket increase you're going to say your house is, 6% more valuable than it was last year and apply the taxes based on that. But that's not indicative of what the actual market value is, looking at the inside of the home. So that may be something that you see that you have to deal with, that somebody, like, they have a tax assessed value in their head and they're thinking my house is worth 900 when really it's worth 860 because because they're looking at a tax assessed value, which is not necessarily market value. Sorry.
Yeah, and to Terry's point, right, it all comes back to education, right? We're not salespeople. We're not walking in a house to actually sell a house. We're actually walking in a house to educate them on what we do and how we market, but also educate them on what the demand, the supply and demand is out there and what the market is saying for homes of likeness, right? Which we'll be getting into that when I share Bright MLS in a second, right? And then, of course, there's appraised value. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then perceived value. So appraised value, what the lender's appraiser will support. And then perceived is what the seller feels their home is worth, okay? Now, some of the best listing appointments ever that are I'll say the easiest and fastest to get someone to say yes to you, sign and lock them in as your client is when you go out to the appointment, you walk through the home, right? By the way, we did have a class all on the actual listing appointment. It will be coming back around again. If you missed it, we do have the recording of that. But when you walk through the house, you're like, okay, and you sit down at the table, you're talking about why they want to sell their home, what their motivation is, and you ask the question before you go into the CMA, you always ask the question right now. You might have already done this on the phone prior to the appointment, but if not, do it now. You ask the question, you're sitting at the table and you say, hey, Rod, let me ask you before we get into the next steps and walking through the next steps, did you have a price in mind? What price did you have in mind for your home? The reason why I'm asking the question, what price do you have in mind for your home is one, if he says something that is completely opposite of what the market is saying, I mentally need to be prepared for that before I just whip out the CMA and show him it. Because if I just pull out the piece of paper and he's saying 500,000 and the CMA says 300,000, he's going to shut down, go into sticker shock and be like, hold up, like, I'm done, right? Or the flip side, Rod comes back and says, well, you know what? I don't know. I mean, I saw my neighbor's home sell and blah, blah, blah. And I did some searching and I ChatGPT'd it. And I think I'm thinking somewhere around, like 480, 460, 480. Now, if you're thinking closer to 500, one, you're looking like the hero. All right. They're going to love you. Now you're able to say, God, you are spot on. I actually think in today's market, we might be able to start in that higher end, that 480, maybe even like 489.9. Right? You don't have to take the CMA out now. One of the as new agents, and I fell into this trap as well. We tend to talk ourselves out of listings more than into listings for when we go on appointments. And it's because we tend to say too much, right? We tend to give them too much, right? So we're over explaining, over analyzing. So if they're saying a price and they're spot on, put the CMA to the side, go right to the exclusive right to sell, go right to signature. There's no reason to talk about the CMA. Now, if they're like, can I see the market? Yeah, sure, I brought it with me. Here you go. All right. So I'm going to now share my screen. I'm going to switch over to Bright MLS. Now, again, there are other systems. I know one system is called RPR. Okay. There's a few coaches on here. If you use other systems, you want to put links in the chat box for everybody, that would be awesome. I don't have the links up. The reason why I personally train on as a coach and use Bright MLS is it gives you a clearer picture on things and you can break things down even more. It lets you play a little bit more with details, right? Because you're not pricing a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom to a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. You're pricing square footage. You're looking at countertops. You're looking at hardwood floors versus carpets. You're looking at backyards that, end unit versus inner unit on townhouses, right? There's so much that goes into an actual pricing analysis, a market analysis, right? And the CMA tells a story, right? So first we're gonna.
May I make a quick comment?
Absolutely.
With regard to the assessed value, because I have to probably get off in a few minutes, but when the house is above the asking price, sometimes it's not a quirk. Sometimes the sellers just need to sell and they don't have enough time. About 2 years ago, I had a house that was asking under the assessed value in Bethesda, and very solid stone house, relatively new. And my buyers just purchased it, added a pool, and made over $1 million on it. So there can be opportunities for buyers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. And that's, it's a great point you bring up because as you're learning as agents, as you're learning the market, as you're practicing CMAs, as you're looking at homes, right? We always want to look at everything as what is the opportunity here? What is the opportunity for the seller? What are opportunities for buyers? Right. Because yeah, there's definitely opportunities, right? So what I'm going to be walking through is I'm going to show you how to search for comparables, show you how to filter and sort, customize, and then actually interpret it to read to the seller. Okay, so I'm going to stop my share. As I'm pulling up Right MLS and logging into it, are there any initial questions as I'm going through this? Any questions where we are now? Be quiet.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it, you know, for me personally, there are times when I actually do a CMA, and there are times when I pull comps and I pull market data and I don't do a full CMA. I kind of go into, because I don't have good comps, right? Like if it's a very unique property or what have you, I don't know. There are some specific times that I just don't do a full CMA. I will pull whatever comps I have available. I will pull market data, and I will explain why. I won't necessarily explain why there's not a CMA, but I will basically explain the data and the information to the person. Are there times when you don't do a CMA, where you just basically, in lieu of a CMA, do comps, pull market data? I know that's something that I do sometimes. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I'll give you an example of that. There was an agent I was working with, and Denise, I'm coming to your hand next. There was an agent I was working with, it's about a year or two ago, and they had listing appointment, and the home was this beautiful historic home, just stunning historic home in a sea of new builds. Okay, so all the houses around it were all new builds. You can't compare a new build to a historic home. So when I actually went with this agent on the first appointment, we didn't actually do the CMA before. Typically, it's you do the CMA, you have everything right for this first appointment. This was such a unique property. We actually had to go see the property in the area. Like we needed to see the area to get a feel for things before we even try to do a CMA. And after seeing the area and realizing there is not one single home anywhere you can compare this to at all. So we didn't even bother going to any systems and attempting to do a CMA because you can't, like it just wasn't possible. You can't do a historic with new build. So what we did is we had a conversation. We went out to the appointment. We had a conversation with the owners and talked to them about. So to Terry's point, first we educated them on market analysis, right? Is based on the most similar compared homes. So Mr. Seller, your home is this beautiful historic home in a area with new construction. You can't compare, the market doesn't compare new construction to historic, so we can't do an actual market analysis on your home. What I would recommend, that's why I said to them, that's how I said it. I said, what I would recommend though, is because we do need to determine a price to get on the market for, right? And of course, I said, what price did you have in mind? And then they gave me a price, and I was like, why'd you come up with that? They're like, well, we paid this amount for, we put this much money into it. I'm like, okay, well, I kind of smile at them. I don't say like, that's not how it works, but I just smile. And I said, well, what I recommend we do is we actually we hire an appraiser, right? I can give you some local appraisers. You get an appraiser to come out here. It'll cost you a few $100s, but it'll be worth it because the appraiser is going to give you a price for this house that we can start with. And we can get on the market with that. Because there was literally nothing you can compare this to at all. Right? So every so often you will come across that where you're going to have properties. Sometimes you'll do a CMA and there's literally one home that's as close as possible to the home you're trying to list. So your CMA is going to be literally one house. You're comparing it to this house, right? You might have one in a perfect world, in a perfect scenario, which by the way doesn't exist, but in a perfect scenario, 3 to 5 is the number you're looking for. That's in a perfect scenario. You don't want more than 5. It's way too overwhelming. Sellers will get confused. It's just too much. Right? 3 to 5 is kind of that sweet spot. Again, if you do 10 CMAs, you might get 3 to 5 with like one of them, maybe 2 if you're lucky. Right? So, all right. Denise, I saw your hand up a little ways back. I didn't want to forget about you. Okay. If you think of the question again, just come on off of mute or throw it in the chat box. All right. So I'm in Bright MLS. I'm going to go to residential sale. By the way, if you haven't been in Bright MLS yet, if you're new to this, I will tell you that both Bright MLS under the education portal here has amazing training. So Bright MLS system itself has amazing training. You don't have to wait for like me or another coach or anything. They have great training. And if you go to YouTube, so when I was a new agent, there wasn't trainings like this with coaches and trainers. I learned a lot on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and literally type in Bright MLS CMAs or Bright MLS searches or Bright MLS fill in the blank with anything you want to do, amazing videos. All right. So what I want to point out here is these 3 tabs. There's criteria, map, and results. Okay, criteria, map, and results. So we're going to use all 3 of these tabs. I'm going to start in the criteria tab. So this is a criteria tab. By the way, this is where you do all your searches for homes. And the only thing, now I'm going to preface this by saying, if you line up 25 agents right now and you say, how do you do a CMA in Bright MLS? All 25 will do something a little bit different. I'm going to share with you a best practice of what I coach people on and what I've used for over 10 years now. As you go through and you grow your business and you're doing more CMAs and learning and training, you're going to find what method you like to use. There's no wrong method as long as you get accurate results. Okay. So the only thing I put in this page right here in criteria is right here under status. I select coming soon, active, active under contract, pending, and closed. Now, the reason why you want all of these is you want to see if there's any coming soons are active, because that's going to be its competition. All right. Jeanette is selling her house today. We're going on appointment. She's our seller. Thanks, Jeanette. And we need to see who her competition is. Okay, if there is any. The reason why you want to see closed is if there's something that recently closed, that's the market. That's what buyers are willing to pay. Pending, you see an amount, but you don't know what it is actually going to close for. It might say pending for 500, but it closed for 480. Or vice versa. You might see pending for 500, but it closes for 530, right? Now, in the blanks here where it says 0 to 180, this is where you kind of have to play because you don't know. I typically leave it as is. I don't touch the blanks to start, but then I'll come back to it. So let's say, for example, we pull up an address, which, by the way, if anybody has an address you want me to do a CMA on right now, I'm about to ask somebody for an address, so get that ready. Or if you wanted to put an address in the chat box, I'm about to put an address in here. I have some examples, but if you have one you want a CMA done on, we'll get ready and give me the address. Let's say we're about to do the CMA and it shows no results on the next screen. I'm going to come back to criteria and I'm going to play with these dates. And I'm going to say, all right, let's go back, I don't know, 250 days. Let's go back 365. Don't go over a year. But just know that a home that sold a year ago is a different price today because the market is different. The market has changed, right? If you, back in 2020, if you looked up a house versus 2021, right, market was very different. Go back to 180. All right. So again, main screen, I just select these 5. Then I'm going to go up to map. And we're going to type in an address. Let me see. All right. So somebody put an address in the chat box. 3204 Varnum Street. All right. What state is that in? 3204 Varnum Street. What state is Varnum Street in? Anybody know? She might be typing.
It's Mount Rainier, Maryland.
Oh, Maryland. Okay. Mount. Am I spelling that right? Rainer? Does anybody know? Let's find out.
I
All
think
right.
it's
So
Rainier.
did I pull it up right? Oh, good. I corrected it. Nice. So here's the thing. What I did here is I typed in an address, and you don't need zip code or anything like that. You can, but you don't need that. You do need city and state though. So you type in the address. What I did on my keyboard though is right after I typed in the address, I just clicked the enter or return button, and it pulled up this screen, this map. Now, what these mean on this map is red is closed, green is active or coming soon, and if you see an orange, that's everything else. So that's pending, that's under contract. Now, you notice on the map, let me shrink this down a little bit. Notice on the map, let me try to find an area. These are like, if you look at so the address itself is that red dot right there, the big red dot in the screen, right? Where there's a closed property right near it. And you notice the lines kind of show that these homes are, I'm assuming, townhouses because they're very close together, as opposed to if you see things that are a little farther apart, bigger lots, like over on the left, you'll see bigger squares. Those usually are single family homes. So one of the things with CMAs is one, you should have already had the conversation. If you did the seller questionnaire, tell me about your house. Is it single family? Is it townhouse? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? Et cetera, et cetera. Because again, you cannot compare a townhouse to a single family. You can't compare a rancher to a colonial. These are all very different properties. Okay, so the goal is to get something as similar as possible. So what we're going to do here is, so there's a few.
I have a question.
Oh yeah, go
before you
ahead.
go on. How far did you zoom in to get right there? Because I have 369 to 5,000 plus, but yours says 38 to 5,000 plus. So how
So the
far
first
do I
thing
need
is,
to move to
so
get to
a
where
few
you
things.
are?
One is make sure on the criteria page you check marked just the 5 boxes.
I did. Mm-hmm.
And then the only thing I did was I typed in the address and clicked enter, and this is the screen that appeared. If it's zoomed in or out too much, there is a little plus and minus symbol that you can, like, if you see how I'm zooming out and you just see like a whole, basically you're seeing like all of Maryland now, right? It's just coming out and coming out. So I'm just using the plus symbol and you can kind of zoom in, right? Because what you want to do with CMAs is you want to also get it around you need to have it in the same area. So you don't want it crossing highways because a home on one side of a highway versus another side of a highway is probably going to be a different price. For those of you who do a lot of business in the Baltimore City or also in DC, one street will be completely different than this street over here. So this street might be in the 400s and this street might be 125,000, right? So understanding, getting to know your areas that you work in is crucial. I will say this, especially if you are in areas. Baltimore City,
Can I say
DC, yeah,
something?
Tierney.
So, if you guys ever find an outlier, like for instance, I was taking a listing appointment in DC off of Georgia Avenue, up north, going up north, upper northwest DC. And let's say there were 5 comps, right? There was one comp, all of the houses were the same style. Could even be similar square footage, same bedrooms, bathrooms, all within a quarter-mile radius. But one sold for maybe $300,000 more. Why? If you ever see something like that, you need to figure out why. Why did this house that's in the same condition sell for so much more? Come to find out, it was the zoning. That particular house was actually on Georgia Avenue. So the zoning it wasn't just residential, it was also commercial. So what they could do with that property was a lot more. So, but if I hadn't done my research, the potential client would have thought, well, oh, this house over here sold for $300,000 more, so I should be able to get that. So if you ever see something that stands out that just doesn't fit, do a little bit more research.
Thank you. And one of the things you can do with research is literally click on that higher price property, read through it. As an agent, I'm going to say this. So I've been a coach now since 2015, coach since 2017, worked with over 1,000 agents by now. And I will tell you the one thing that holds true for all, I want to say newer agents, it's agents who haven't closed 3-4 deals yet, right? So you haven't had that, the experiences yet. You haven't built up the true, like the full confidence yet, right? Which confidence truly only comes from closings. The one thing that holds true is the more time you put into studying and learning and sitting and clicking and reading and practicing, the more professional you're going to be at your appointments, the better agent you will be for your clients, and the more successful you'll be in your business. Right? If you're sitting back and just kind of waiting as an agent, right? And Tierney's a coach as well. And we've seen this time and time again, right? The more you sit back and you're just kind of waiting for something to fall in your lap, and then all of a sudden that friend calls you and is like, I have a property, it's 700,000, I want you to list it. And you're like, all right, I've never practiced contracts. I've never practiced CMAs. I've never practiced this. You are going to spend, number one, you're going to be stressed as all get out, right? But you're probably going to, it's probably going to take you a good 5-6 hours, 5-6 hours to get everything together and to prepare and get everything ready for that appointment that you're going on. I'm saying that because there was an agent recently who, that actually happened. Agent recently landed a listing appointment, never practiced, never read contracts, never spent the time in their business to actually learn their business, right? To be a professional. And the person was listing their house. They were interviewing him and one other agent. They wanted him to come out the very next day. He worked a full-time job. I'm like, yeah, you should take a day off. Like, you need this whole day you need to take a PTO day because you haven't practiced. Like, you need a vacation day. He's like, I don't have any time. I said, well, I'm going to send you every video possible, and you're going to literally stay up till probably about 1 a.m. getting this together. He's like, no, I go to bed at 10 p.m., like at the latest. I'm like, do you want this listing? It's like, absolutely. I'm like, so long story short, he wasn't prepared. He didn't go out with what he needed. They hired the other agent because in his brain, even though he goes to trainings, in his brain, he thought it would be easier. He thought that doing all of this and the CMAs and the contracts and doing all of it's easy. It becomes easy as time goes on, right? Like I mentioned, in the very beginning, it takes you a few hours to put all this stuff together. Now, having 10 years under my belt, I can do a contract in maybe 15 minutes. I can probably do a CMA in about 5 minutes, depending on the house. Sometimes it's a little more difficult, depending on the location, right? But that takes a lot of practice and a lot of time, right? I've probably written over 100 contracts just practicing. That's not real ones. I'm just talking about practice. I knew I was waiting for Tierney's hand. Her and I have conversation around this, so I was totally waiting for her hand to come up.
So I say this a lot to my people in coaching for DC. One, when you help somebody buy or sell a home, this is one of the largest financial transactions they will ever make. You need to treat it as such, right? You would not want to go to an oncologist if you had a potential medical emergency and go to the doctor who has not studied and he's like cramming on the day before they're supposed to meet you. Like, that's not how this works. Houses, real estate is what helps calculate people's net worth. It's what goes to the next generation. So A, you need to treat it like it is one of the largest financial transactions they will ever make. But number two, the other thing is, the more you familiarize yourself with this, it becomes second nature, right? You become familiar with it, and there's a confidence that comes with this. If you don't know this stuff, if you try to cram 20 hours worth of information into your brain in 5 hours the night before, you're not going to be confident. You're not going to know what to say. You're going to be tripping over your words, and you're not going to come across as the agent that is worth me hiring for the largest financial transaction I've ever made. So just keep that in mind. Please, please, please make sure you time block to practice this stuff in advance. I'm gonna shut up so y'all can get the rest of
All right, perfect. No, well said. All right, so we have our map here, okay? And you notice a bunch of greens and reds. So what I'm going to do is up top there's a toolbar. The favorite tool to use here, what's called the polygon. So if you hover over the tools, you're going to see one that's called the polygon. So I'm going to click on that. And the reason the polygon is because you're going to see I can literally draw a shape in any direction I want. So what I'm doing with my keyboard right now is I'm clicking on the polygon. Now I'm going to go to the screen and I'm going to basically click where I want to drop a to start my drawing. So I'm actually going to go, I'm just going to go right down in this corner right here. And what I'm doing is I'm clicking and it's putting a little dot. See how it kind of put a little dot and I can kind of draw this anywhere I want? Does everybody see that? Is it coming across? Yes, okay. So I'm actually going to go all the way up to this red house up here. I'm going to bring it all the way over. Now, I don't know 34th Street, but it looks like a big road, so I'm going to actually stop it. What I'm doing is I'm clicking to drop a pin, and then I'm drawing a new line all the way down. I'm clicking, drawing a new line this way, clicking, drawing a new line that way. Let's add that guy in there, and let's close it up. Now, by the way, if you draw a shape and you're like, oh, I totally messed up, you can always delete and start over. So what I did is I told the map, I want to look at these houses. Now what I'm going to do is click on the next tab next to map on the top that says results. Now this is where it's going to show you a little snapshot of everything. Me personally, I always sort by bedrooms as my first sorting tool. Then I'm going to click on where it says agent one line and look at this. You can view this page in so many different ways. When you go to Bright MLS, spend time in here. Like go into Bright MLS every day and click on something new and see what it looks like. Right? The only way to get familiar with what all of these mean is to click on it. Right now, I'm going to go to agent thumbnail. You'll see why once I click on it. What this shows me is a little snapshot. Tiny little snapshot, right? So, okay. So all the homes in this area are, looks like little single family homes from what I'm seeing. Now, for sake of time, I'm just going to make up some information right now. Okay, because I actually I'm not familiar with, actually, you know what I'm going to do? All right, so that property, that address was on Varnum Street. So here's the thing. If you see a home on the same street, that's almost always a comparable you want in it. Not always, but almost always. Because usually homes on the same streets are very similar. Again, I say almost because of that historic, new construction example I gave. Okay. So what we're doing here is we want to look at what has the most similar bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, right? Notice how this one is active, meaning this one is its competition. This one has been on the market for 81 days. It did a price decrease.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
And I know you not obligated to answer, but let me ask it anyway. I'm new to using a MacBook. So I hit the button where you said to draw the polygram. I saw the plus sign. I put it on the map. All right, do I left click or right click? What am I doing to make the
So
lines to go around the house?
yeah, so since you have a Mac, let me walk you through this. So I can walk you through it, but not during this Zoom because that's a whole nother. I remember switching from PC to Mac and it was a whole nother lesson. So you can give me a call after this. I have some time so I can actually walk you through on your because unfortunately everybody's laptops are a little bit different. So if you're using like the little mouse pad, it's like mine's in the center, but some people's are on the right and some people on the left, and some people's double click and some people's a single click. So unfortunately, everybody's computers work different. So it's figuring out what your laptop allows you to click and not click, or how it clicks. So being more Mac friendly as I am, not PC friendly, I'm happy to hop on a phone and navigate that with you.
Okay.
So you can-
I have a quick
Okay, well,
question.
thank Nicole for her input. Thank you.
I have a quick question. Once you got your markings, how did you get to that list? 'Cause I didn't catch that. I was making my mark.
Oh, so once you have this, I'm just clicking the
Yes.
tab, which says criteria map and results. I'm clicking on results.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. And then I click the drop down for thumbnail because I like to see a little snapshot of what the houses look like. So what we're doing here is now we're selecting whatever properties we see are most similar, right? So if the property is, let's say this property that we are comparing it to is 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, let's say it's 1,500 square feet, right? So we're getting all this information from both the owners of the property on that seller questionnaire as well as tax records, okay? Right, so this property would be a perfect thing to add into the CMA. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the checkbox to say, yes, I want to put this in the CMA. Right, so now what we're doing is we're just scrolling down and we're checking the box of all the ones we want to add in that are most similar. Right. By the way, you can also, let's say you talk to an owner and they say that they did tons of upgrades, granite countertops, hardwood floors, the works, right? I'm going to go a step further and I'm going to look at the pictures, right? So, all right, this one's hardwood floors, but as you can see, it's a little bit outdated as far as the kitchen, the countertops. Not the best photography for this.
Okay, so from the list view,
Outdated room here with the walls, right? So I'm going to check this one. Hold on, I'm going to check a few and then we'll actually look at the CMA together, right? So this one's 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. Let's say it's a little more square footage than our comparable. Now, here's a good one. Look at this. So this kind of goes to what Tierney said, right? This one is on the market for 126 days, 664,000 plus, right? Did a price decrease already, right? Still active, way overpriced, obviously, for being on the market that long. This property, 339,000. Now, it is 2 less bathrooms and it is 700, approximately 600 some less square footage. So of course it would be less money, but that's a lot less, right? But if you see the differences, look at the difference, right? So we look at this house. What do you notice? What are we noticing here?
it's a lot more updated, look like.
Exactly. This one is fully updated. Countertops, stainless steel appliances. This house was totally redone. Still think it's overpriced, but totally redone. Where this property, I mean, just for the looks of the outside, we don't probably have to click through it, but I will. What are we guessing? This is what? Somebody used the word opportunity, right? It doesn't even have pictures on the inside. So this is a good example where if your sellers that you're going out to the property for is saying that their house is a complete fixer-upper, it's outdated, it needs a lot of work, it's more for like an investment type property, then I would include this 4309 30th Street because this is more an investment type property. If they're like, oh no, it's hardwood floors, it's really nice, move-in ready, then you don't want to include that because see the difference in price? Right? Does that make sense?
It does.
Now,
Um,
all right. Let me see if there's any, what I'm looking for here, if there's any more on the same street. And I don't see any. So what I'm going to try to find here is something that closed. And closed recently. So this one closed for 400,000 and it was October 3rd, so very recent. So I'm going to click on these pictures here, take a look at it. All right.
I'm still on the list view where they all came up on the list, not like the pictures how you have them, but on the list view. What button do I click from there? Oh, you went to agent.
Yep.
What is it?
Instead of one line, you click agent thumbnail.
Okay, agent thumbnail. I'm gonna write that down. Thank you.
So I'm just going to pick a few now just for sake of time, just to show you some comparables. And then what I'm going to do is down at the very bottom, you have a little orange bar and it has a bunch of different items in it. One of them says CMA. So I'm going to click CMA. Now, I am not sending this to a contact. So me personally, I skip this. Some agents don't skip this. They put their contact in here. That's completely up to you. I go directly to pages, right? So right here, think of this navigation bar where it says start and pages. This is literally your checklist. Like you're going through a checklist to create a CMA. You cannot break Bright MLS. You cannot mess up clicking on things. The greatest way to practice is to click. When you go to pages, you're going to see, look at all these things. There's cover pages, there's subject adjustments, there's comparables, there's additional pages, there's map pages. I don't even know how many pages is totals, but it's obviously a ton. You're not bringing all these pages to the seller. That is just overwhelming. I'm going to share with you one best page you definitely want to bring, other pages you may want to bring and why. And then for your practice, one of your CMAs that you practice, I want you to actually click every single one of these. I want you to select every single one of these, create a CMA with the whole thing. And I want you to go through and I want you to look to see what pages do you like? If you were selling your home, what do you like looking at? Because if you're the ones liking the page, you're more confident talking about it. Like there's a few pages in here that are big graphs, and I don't like talking about graphs, so I'm not going to include it because then I have to sit and explain graphs, right? So you want to put in there pages that almost like speak to you, right? So for me, what I'm going to put in here is I'm going to put in a pricing recommendation. I'm going to put in the 4UP listing report. The 4UP listing report is my personal favorite. I'll be honest with you, when I was starting to really go on listing appointments on a regular basis, my CMA was literally just that page and that's it. That's actually all I brought. I didn't bring anything else. I brought that, the exclusive right to sell, and that was my entire appointment. I'm not saying that's the best practice. I'm just saying that you're going to find what works best for you. Some people love to do a little cover sheet with your information, their information. Again, totally up to you. If you know let's say you're going after a for sale by owner, I might put in benefits of using a realtor. If it's somebody who is looking to hire an agent, I'm not going to include that because they already know the benefits of using a realtor. If you're talking to someone who you think might be thinking their home is worth more, right? So if I'm on the phone with Larry and he says he's thinking he can get 400 for it or 500, and I'm thinking his house is 400, I'm going to put in the effects of overpricing. Right? Or pitfalls of overpricing. I'll throw that one in there. Maybe I'll put in steps of a positive showing. All right, so for right now, I'm just going to put those 4 just so you can see what it looks like. So I just selected the pages. Now I'm going to come over to comparables up here in this little bar. I'm going to check mark all of them to say I want to compare all of these. And then I'm literally going to go to, I'm just going to skip right over and go right to finish. Now, adjustments is if you know they've done work on their house or you want to make some adjustments because they're an end unit versus an inside unit, or you know they did like granite countertops or whatever, you can do that. However, you have to know what those might be worth in increasing and selling a house. That comes with both time and the more sales you have.
I have a
I'm going
quick
to click.
question.
Mm-hmm.
When we get to click on all those options, when you look at them in your, when it comes up on your computer, are they in the same order as what what shows on that left side?
Like, oh, what you check marked, you mean?
Yeah, like if you're looking like the first one was like the cover sheet. So if you had like 10, if you picked up 10
Oh,
of
I see.
them,
Are they putting
would
it?
those 10
Yes.
be in the same order?
So, if I click on cover sheet right now, it's actually going to put it at the very end of my PDF.
Okay,
But over here, I can actually highlight it and move it to the top.
okay. So whatever
But
you
every time you
see
do a
and
CMA, you have to select whatever you want for every CMA. It doesn't save your
okay,
selections.
right. So the order you show it right where your cursor is now, that's the order you're going to see it when it brings it up on your
Exactly.
screen. Okay, that's what I was
Yes,
trying to
yes.
figure out.
Oh,
Thank you.
yes. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So if I wanted like steps to a positive showing first, I could do that, right? I can move them around to see like what do you want that PDF that you're about to print out look like?
Well, I was just thinking when it comes to like if you want to eliminate some, you can take a screenshot of that. And then when you get it up on your, you can say, I don't want that one, and know which one you're going to delete.
Oh, exactly. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
You can delete it. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep. So again, I selected the
Thanks.
comparables. I clicked on finish. And then right here, you're not going to email it. You're just clicking view. Because again, you're not emailing this to the sellers. Even if they say, can you email it to me? Your verbiage is going to be like, hey, thank you for asking. I'm not able to email it because to truly provide you with an accurate market analysis, a pricing analysis for your home, I actually need to do a full walkthrough of your house. Well, it takes a few minutes to come out and really see what the market's saying and view your house for that purpose. So does tomorrow night at 5 or 6 o'clock work better for you? Right. So you're acknowledging they asked your question, but you're not going to say, yes, I'm going to send it to you. You're going to say why you can't send it to them and then set the appointment. The whole thing with getting a seller on the phone is set an appointment. You're on the phone to set an appointment. You're not on the phone to get them to choose you, get them to say yes, or any of that. All right. So here's where it's going to give pricing recommendations. Now, this one, there are a lot of variations in pricings because of these homes. Right. So I'm going to go directly to this report right here. And this is where we're going to look at the 3 comparables I selected. I actually selected 4, but we'll look at these 3. Now, here's where you're at the appointment. And so let's say that they want their house listed at $650. Okay. So Jeanette's selling her house. She wants her property listed at $650. I'm going to say, okay, well, Jeanette, thank you for sharing that. Let's talk about the market. Again, we always want to, number one, keep a poker face. Okay. I once had someone say their house is worth $1 million, and I'm like, ooh, they're not getting anything over 700. All right. Keep a poker face. This is someone's home we're dealing with, right? They're very proud of it. So now we're just going to go into education mode. So Nanette, thanks for sharing that with me. Let's talk about the market, because the market's really what sells a house. Now I'm going to share with you how I market homes and social media and the network that I'm going to get out to of agents who are working with buyers. But really, it is the market and the market value, which means what are buyers willing to pay for a home, right? So let's look at what's happening right now in your neighborhood, right? And this is where I'm going to share with her these properties. So I'm going to say, well, right now, this one, which is on your street, is at 625. It's active. This is your competition. So Jeanette, I'm role playing with you right now, just so you know. So this is your competition. Okay, so when buyers are coming on your street, are they looking at the 650 or are they looking at the 625, right? They're probably going to go to this one because it's a little less right now. The sellers might say, yeah, but I've been in their house. That's my neighbor. Their kitchen is smaller than mine. Or you know what? They don't have that extra closet upstairs that I have. Okay. These are all good things that we're going to note. Absolutely. Right. But this is what, you know, I'm just sharing with this is what buyers are looking at, right? So we want to be competitive because that's how your home is going to sell. And more importantly, now this is the most important part. When you're talking about price, you have to tie it to motivation if you're not on the same page with price. right? So I'm going to tie it to, listen, we have to be competitive to get your home sold. So we get you to Florida before that snow hits. Because I know you don't want to shovel again. You have to tie a pricing conversation to a person's motivation. That's the only way you're going. You can't have a battle on price. You'll always lose, right? So here's what I'm going to walk through and say, now, this one here, this one sold, a little bit smaller than yours, but this one sold, right? Listed at 410, it sold for 400. Same bedrooms, same bathrooms, little smaller square footage. Right? So we're kind of sharing the differences. And again, all we're doing is we're showing them. Now I'll go in and I'll sit there with a highlighter and highlight bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage. That's what we're looking at. Right. And then it breaks down to the actual details of the property itself.
Okay,
Once
can
you-
you,
Mhm.
I'm sorry. So after we have cover sheet, pricing recommendation for a listing report and pitfalls of overpricing, and then how did you get to this page here? 'Cause
Yep. So at the very
that's
bottom
where
of the screen it says, or I'm sorry, at the very top of it has a button that says finish. So you'll click finish and then you'll see a button that says view CMA. And the view CMA will pull this up.
view CMA. Got it. Okay, finish. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So again, what we're looking at here is we're looking for, now this one is an interesting one, right? Now, if I had more time, now this is a good one, right? This is one I personally will spend a little more time on before actually doing the CMA or while doing the CMA because you have a home. They're all residential detached. Okay. They're all built around the same year. They're all around the same square footage. One's a little bit larger, right? Two of them are active in the 600 range. The only one that closed is in the 400 range. So I'm probably going to spend more time, go back into criteria, go back in time. I need to look up other properties that closed. I need to look up to see there's pending ones. I need to find other properties that are more similar to this property because that's a huge difference. 400, 600 is too big of a difference. Ranges should be, 400 to 450, maybe 400 to 480. They shouldn't be hundreds of thousands. So the fact that there's this big difference is telling me either A, this 400,000 home is completely different than these other properties. So it shouldn't even be in these comparables because it's not a good comparison. Or whoever listed these other two properties fully overpriced them, which they are overpriced because they've been on the market too long, 81 days and 126 days. So they are overpriced, but the question is, are they overpriced about 200,000 or are they overpriced maybe 50,000 or 60,000? That's where this comparable right here, I would not bring this right here to the seller. I'm as an agent, I'm now looking at this going, no, as an agent, I need to spend more time on this, go back into the criteria, go back into the map and literally look at pictures and look at descriptions and figure out why there's a 400 versus a 600 because I need better comparables. Does that make sense? Right? Where the opposite of this, I'm going to share, I know we're a little over. If you have to go, I totally understand this. We are recording this, but I think this is so, so important. I'm going to do one really, really quick. Again, just active under contract, pending, closed. I'm going to do an address that I know of personally. I know this is like a cookie cutter townhouse area where like everything's the same except for like maybe one bedroom versus another. So I just want to show a little bit of difference here in, again, I'm just kind of drawing a map. There we go. Criteria, sort by bedrooms, go to thumbnail. By the way, see how fast I did that? When I first started as an agent, I was doing, no lie, I probably did like 20 CMAs a day, like 20 a day, just practicing, right? Which while I'm going through this, I will give you the assignment just in case people have to drop off. Here's the greatest way to practice. Ready for it? This is the best way to practice doing CMAs and getting hands-on. Today, I'll say between today and Friday. Let's go with that. Let's give you the week. Between today and Friday, find 5 active listings. Just whatever they are, 5 active listings. Doesn't matter where, find wherever you want. Doesn't matter who the agent is. Don't overthink it. What I want you to do on a piece of paper or on a computer, I want you to write down the 5 active listings. So write down their address. So like right now, I'd write down 7997. So we're going to write down their address, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, square footage, okay? And then look at the pictures of all 5, just kind of scroll through real quick and just make a note whether it's, kind of move-in ready, pristine. So like, is it like low, middle, or high on a range? So like this one, just quickly clicking through it. This would be on the high range, right? This is granite countertops, harbor floors, stainless steel appliances, beautifully done. It's actually my neighbor. Um, really nice, right? So just take a quick note, bedroom, bathroom, square footage, fixer upper or high end. Then after you have all 5 addresses listed with the details, you're going to go in as if, now you're not actually listing these properties, they're already with an agent, you cannot call them, don't do that, you'll get in trouble, you'll lose your license. But you're going to pretend as if you are going on a listing appointment and go in and do a CMA on all 5 and see what price range your CMA is saying versus what it's actually listed for. Okay. So 5, and the reason for the number 5 is that it starts giving you muscle memory. When you start doing things repeatedly, your hand motions on your keyboard can move quicker. That's why I said I used to do like 20 because I was like, I want to know it faster. I don't want to have to spend hours doing it. So just the more you do it, the faster it's going to be. Right? And then, like I said, you'll be able to whip them out in no time. Minus the little doozies, you have to do a little extra research. Right. So really quick on this one. So we're going to compare the property that's 3 bedrooms. Like this one right here, right? So we're going to say this is comparable. And by the way, you also, if it's townhouses, if it's an N unit, the N units will always be more than an inside, right? So this is end of row home. No, it's in. So I know this area really well, and I know Alchemy and Potter Place are kind of 2 different directions of the community. So because I know this area, I'm actually not going to include Potter Place because they're different types of townhomes than Alchemy. Right? Blue Stream, I know Blue Stream is similar to Alchemy, so I'm going to include that. All right. Because there's so many Alchemies, I'm actually going to get rid of Blue Stream, so I stay in the same road. The more you can stay in the same area, the better. Right? So now I selected all the Alchemies. I'm going to click CMA. For right now, I just want to look at the before up listing report with everybody. I don't want really fast there. But again, when you practice, you'll all be able to do that. Okay. When I first started out, it was taking me hours, like literally hours upon hours. So trust me, you'll get faster. All right. So here's what I'm looking at really quickly here. So we have active, close, and closed on this first screen. Okay. We have 2 end units and a interior. Okay. So we're going to say that the home that we're going out to for the listing is an interior. That doesn't mean I should or shouldn't include end units, but if there's other properties other than end units, I will probably go back in and delete the end units. What I don't want happening is the seller to be like, well, wait a minute, they're 569. Can I be that? Well, no, because you're not an end unit. End unit's about anywhere between 10 to 20,000 more on average. Right. So I'm going to look at this and say, okay, here's one that's active. So this is the competition. It's on the market for 550. It's been on the market 10 days. That's actually not bad in this area. Okay, so that's pretty average in this area. So I'm going to scroll down this. Right, so here's another interior. This one's active under contract. Now we don't know what's going to close for, but we do know that the list price was 545, which means that it did bring buyers by. So that price brought in buyers. Okay, it was on the market for 35 days. That's a little more days on market than usual in my area, but it's not crazy, right? And then you have this one that closed, but look, it closed back in May. Prices have changed a bit. They've gone down a bit in my area, not up, unfortunately, right? List price 559, closed for 572, so a little less, right? So here we have its competition at 550. One that's under contract for 545, but we don't know what's going to close for, and one that closed at 372. Does anybody want to take a guess at what price point we might want to start this property at? Oh, Denise, come on off of mute. I see you saying something.
I would probably start it at a little less than 372. I
You mean
would.
572?
I thought that was 372. I mean, okay. Well, yeah, 572. I thought I saw 372. No, 572. I would start it around there, maybe 565, maybe, or 5.
So
yeah.
I do see where Denise is coming from with this. Would anybody like to say anything different? Anybody have any other ideas?
How about
Jeanette?
5499?
Somebody's been around me way too long. So now, is there a reason you said 549.9?
It was in the middle, but a little bit higher than the middle.
Okay, so it was higher than this, the 545.
Yeah, 545.
But just a tad low, a whole $100 lower than its competition. Right. All right. Any other guesses or thoughts? Not guesses. Remember, we don't guess on CMAs. It's not a perfect science. It's an art, but we don't just make it up and guess. We do it based on numbers. Right. So here's the thing. I'm going to go with both Jeanette and Denise are accurate. Now, as an agent, I'm going to choose, right? So I'm going to go in and Jeanette, you're still selling your house here. Actually, Denise, you're selling the house now. Sorry. So Denise is selling her house. And I'm going to say, Denise, based on what we're seeing here, right? By the way, I took out the end units. Based on what we're seeing here, yes, this one, I know you want to go higher. I know you said that. And this one did close at 572. However, that was back in May and the market has changed since then. It has gone down a little bit. Okay. And I know you want to get to Florida with that, because that snow and our streets do not get plowed at all. We get stuck. True statement, right? This is what buyers are looking at right now with the active ones. This is your competition. My professional recommendation, now as your agent, we can start it where you feel best, but as my professional recommendation, is to actually start it at 549.9. I'd probably do 549.5, maybe a little bit less, right? Best case scenario, Denise, now I don't have a crystal ball, so by the way, never promise. Best case scenario, Denise, is we get multiple buyers coming through, there's multiple offers, and it actually bumps it up to where you get more than that. I can't promise that. That's what we're going to try for, right? Worst case scenario, the market has changed even more. We'll know probably in about 2 weeks, and that's what we'll have a pricing conversation. If we need to drop it, I always drop things in increments of 5,000. And that's just based on how buyers look online.
So why so low? When it's already was like what was that, 572, and she's like 550. I mean, why wouldn't it not just go ahead and meet her in the middle? Why would you do 565?
So, you
And
know what, Denise, we could start here. We're totally role playing this now. So we could start at 565. My only concern with that is, but buyers are shoppers, right? It's like you're going to a store at the mall, right? And you're buying, you see the same exact shirt because these houses are the same. You're seeing the same exact shirt. And one shirt is $20 and the other shirt is $30. You're probably going to pick up the $20 one and bring it to the counter, right? We want to drive buyers to see your property. I want to drive my goal is to get buyers in to see your property and view it. And the concern based on the market, notice how we keep saying the market based on the market, is that the buyers are all going to go look at the other property and not even see yours. Right? Now, I'm here to work for you and with you. So are you comfortable starting it at, let's say, 459.9? Or do you really feel you want to start it at, let's say, 565 or 564.9? So here, push back on me and say, let's say that Denise just said, nope, 564. I want that. Here's the thing. I'm willing to take this listing, but here's the expectation conversation.
Yeah, because
You know what?
I'm sorry.
Absolutely, Denise. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I was thinking you want to give them the bang for their buck.
Here's the thing. If buyers aren't even coming by to see the property, they're not getting any bang for their buck because nobody's coming to see it.
Okay.
Right? As opposed to, it's kind of like it's like eBay, right? When you go on eBay and you see things for cheap, you're more likely to bid higher, right? So I'm not saying our homes are eBay in any sort of way, but our goal is to drive traffic to your house. The more traffic, the more viewers, the more people come in, the more likely we're getting offers. The faster we get to Florida. Always tie it back to motivation. Now, I'm more than happy to start it. Now, here's the expectation conversation with price that's so important. So let's go ahead and do this because I'm hearing what you say and I'm here to work with you, right? Let's start it at 565. I'm going to keep an eye on the showings. I'm going to keep you updated every week on what's happening. And within the first 2 weeks, that's 14 days, within the first 2 weeks and 14 days, we're going to know if the market, meaning the buyers out there, are not coming through. We're not getting the traffic we need. And if that's the case, then in 14 days, we're going to drop it in a $10,000 increment. Okay, how do you feel about that? Of course, okay, let's start it there. Yep, that's good, right? And then I usually send that in an email later, like in 14 days, this is what's going to happen. So that's the price conversation that has to happen up front. Because if you don't, and you need to now come back 2 weeks now, and then, all right, we haven't had showings. We don't have any offers. Nobody's coming to see the house.
Because if a house really look good and it really looks nice, she's going to get a bidding war, right?
Only if it's priced properly. It could be the most beautiful, pristine, upgraded house with all the bells and whistles, but if it's not priced to the market, nobody's coming to see it. Because people shop, first of all, they shop online first, right? So the first place people look are your pictures at professional photography. That's the first place they look. Then they look at the price and are they pre-approved for that price? Can they afford it? Is it above? If they go and they're doing a search and they see 550 and they see 565, all right, let's go see this one. Maybe they'll be like, let's go see both because we're in the neighborhood, but usually buyers are like, no, I just want to go see this one. That's 15,000 more. Even though in the scheme of things, 15,000 more to a buyer is like pennies in the scheme of
Hilarious.
things. Like it's like a whole Starbucks, that's it. You know? It's like a mocha. That's all it is. Buyers don't know that. So buyers just see, oh my God, that's 15,000 more. I don't want to see it. So they're not even coming through the house to see it. Right. And the whole thing as an agent is our job as listing agents is to get buyers to come see the house. Right. Next thing is to actually sell the house. You can't sell it without them seeing it. Unless it's investment property, totally different story. Okay, we are way over time, but I thought that was really important to go into that detail. So I appreciate all of you for sticking around for that. So pick 5 active listings. Get into Bright MLS, get hands-on and practice. I'm going to send all of you the seller questionnaire in an email. I'm also going to send you a video walking through what I just did for CMA. So you'll get it's like a 5-minute video that just walks through exactly what I did. So you can like pause it, click, go back to it, pause it, click, so you can get all hands-on. Okay.
So do you want us to go in our community and just pick the houses and then go to the MLS and pick and go through those listings from our community?
You could do that if you wanted to. What I was saying is actually go to Bright MLS and look up actual active ones. So then you kind of see what people have it, because then you can go back and see like what it's actually listed for and what the days on market. Just because it's listed for 550 doesn't mean that's the right price. You have to look at days on market, right? If something's like 80 days, 100 days, etc. Yeah, it's overpriced. Unless it's like $1 million property, because those usually take that long to sell. All right, 5 properties, get in, practice the CMAs. I'll send you the information in an email so you have all of that. Get hands-on.
I got a quick question or
Yeah.
2. So when you were listing, like looking up for the bedrooms, do you add or subtract for bedroom usage? Can it be done through?
Oh, yes. So I don't do it through Bright. It's more of like okay, let's say for example, the only similar home comparable is 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, but the listing you're going on is 4 bedrooms. I will still use that if it's the only one. I will still use that as a comparable. And let's say that home sold or active, it doesn't matter, for, I'm just going to use a blanket number, 400,000. I will automatically know that if in fact they have 4 bedrooms, which by the way, some people might say 4 and then they walk around and they just randomly made a bed in a basement area that doesn't have an egress. So walk around, make sure it's 4, but if it truly is 4 bedrooms, then you know that it can be listed above 400. Because if a 3-2, meaning 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom is 400, and there's 4 bedrooms, add more bedrooms, add more price, more bathrooms, add more price, a higher price, end units at a higher price. Usually, again, typically increments of, this varies depending on area, I'm going to be completely honest, but 5,000, 10,000, things like that. That's usually what it is. End units will usually be about 10, 15, 20,000 more. Bedrooms, usually about 5,000 more.
How about square footage? Like I noticed on Bright does not give you a total square footage. Are you only?
Oh, it is above, you only talk above grade. Yep.
So what if the basement is totally finished and has a bedroom down there? You're not compared?
You can still, so if it's a fully finished basement, so let's say you have 2 houses and they're the exact same, bedrooms, everything. One has a finished base room, one does not. The one with the finished basement, you can add on. It will be, if this one's active for 400, this one you can put for a little higher because it has that finished basement.
But it's not going to be that much
This is
different.
why, and this, what'd you say?
So, but it's not going to be a huge difference then.
It's not a huge difference. Again, finished basement,
Right.
5 to 10,000, right? Here's the thing. This is where CMAs get tricky, is because for anybody who's a perfectionist, you're not going to enjoy doing CMAs to start. Okay. I'm just going to set that expectation because it's more of an art than a science. There's a little bit of science just because there's numbers to it, but it's more of an art, right? It's more of just really looking at so many homes on Bright MLS and seeing like, okay, what's sold, what didn't sell, what's active, right? A great best practice as an agent, right? If you want to really understand these prices and like how do people price them, and learn the art of it, take 30 minutes a week, just 30 minutes a week, not a day, a week. Take 30 minutes a week, jump in a Bright MLS, look up your area where you live. Now, I don't mean like your community, like your zip code, right? And just start really looking at homes, right? What homes closed? How many days on market were they? Let me click through them and see like, okay, in this area, this many homes closed. Here's the days on market, right? So you're kind of doing a little personal research. Right. All right. So in October, 5 houses closed in my zip code, and the days on market for all 5 were this. So the average is this. All right. Here's 3 houses that closed. Let me look at the differences in them. Let me click on pictures. Let me scroll through the pictures. Right. If you do that for 30 minutes once a week, you'll really start getting a solid grasp on just how to view homes and how to view prices. And you'll start learning this art. I will tell you it probably, I mean, I will always still be learning. I'm constantly taking classes on this. Even this is 10 years in, I'm still taking classes on it, to constantly learn different things and new things. And it probably took me a good year to 2 years to start grasping the art of it. It was not a month or 2 months. It was a year or 2 years. Okay. So it took many appointments, many houses I priced wrong, many houses I had to go back and do pricing things on. It took, I had things that expired. Like it took those experiences to truly learn like